that was like me the other day when I went for a run and I forgot to, track any of it. So I have no idea how fast I was going.
I'm sure you did very well. I'm sure you did very well.
I'm telling myself now I did very well. I have no idea. I don't have any data to back that up, but I am telling myself that I did.
All right, Emma Cassidy, we are now recording. I believe
Okay.
I believe that we can cut out this little bit where we're talking about running.
Oh, can we? Good.
And how do I avoid the glare in my glasses? Maybe I don't.
Oh, I can't. I have to look kind of this way, I think, if I avoid the glare in my glasses.
Or I can, no, but then I'm squinting. I have to have my glasses. All right. All right.
Your glasses are lovely, so keep them on.
Okay, this is not weird at all. All right.
Of course it's not. It's just us chatting. It just happens to have like a little recording thing.
I just have to do the introductory bit. Oh, by the way, I changed some of the questions, which means that it'll be more natural. All right. Okay. Welcome to OutRight TV, a weekly video and podcast bringing you stories of LGBTIQ people and allies across the globe as we face this pandemic together. I'm Dinah. I'm the Senior Communications Manager at OutRight Action International. And in today's episode, I'm talking to Emma Cassidy, who is from Ireland, but I think she's from Ireland. She lives in Northern Ireland, but is currently in Ireland. We can talk about that in a moment. Welcome, Emma.
Okay.
At the time,
Hi.
At the time of recording, you are actually our first guest.
Oh, this is exciting. No pressure. First guest.
No pressure at all. First guest number one. So I have known Emma for what feels like forever. And I would describe you as an incredibly energetic, label-rejecting, feminist to the core kind of activist who has been involved in both achieving marriage equality and abolishing the abortion ban in the Republic of Ireland. Yes. An activist with an uncanny talent for hosting karaoke nights and a passionate love for wine and cheese and dogs.
Amen.
All of these are qualities which have made us great friends over many years and across borders and now oceans. But that's what I would say about you. What would you say about you?
I would say all of the above, plus adding to that, being an overthinker to the extreme, which you can imagine in these times that we are now living through, is maybe not the best personality trait to have, but also an introvert, which a lot of people, when you say you're very engaging and outgoing and bubbly, some people don't imagine that I'm introverted, but I have a feeling now, again, in these times, that will test my introverted qualities to the extreme to see if I really like being imposed in an introvert and isolated world. So let's see how that works out, shall we?
Yes, indeed. Let's see how that works out. So we've been living in this new normal for about 2 weeks now, 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, about that. Yeah,
about that. Longer in other parts of the world, but where you are in Europe and where I am in North America, it's been about 2-3 weeks. So where are you? Can you tell us where you are? And why are you where you are? Yes, physically.
Physically, I am in my, as I refer to, my home. So the house that my parents live in and that I grew up in. So that physically is in Ireland. So it's as far northwest as you can go in Ireland, County Donegal. And I came back here not quite a week ago. My job is based in Belfast, which is in Northern Ireland, which is part of the United Kingdom, which is only about 2 hours of a drive away. But I am back here in Donegal because there was a bit of discomfort generally around the amount of physical distancing going on. Obviously, we don't necessarily want social distancing in the way that we imagine. People are not together, we still want that, but the physical distancing thing wasn't working out too well in my part of Belfast about a week ago. So I took the decision. I was like, I need to feel a little bit more comfortable about where I am. So I took the decision to come back down here, which again, everything is changing all the time, right? The last time we spoke, the situation was slightly different. Even today or yesterday, if we'd been having this conversation, my answer and my feeling about it would be slightly different because as the UK in particular moved to play catch up, I suppose, with some of the measures that other countries had already introduced, now getting towards a situation where I'm wondering, if I stay in Ireland or go back to Northern Ireland, am I going to get stuck, for want of a better word, in one area or the other, which I suppose is something that a lot of people, I know a lot of our friends, our former colleagues, are living in places where they are separated from friends or family. And that's definitely something that would have weighed on my mind if I wasn't able to physically get back. I realize I'm on the same physical island. There's not that much distance, but for other people I know are going through a lot of the similar thoughts of, okay, now I can't get back. I mean, you are case in point. You are, you know, several million thousand miles, and you know, an ocean away from a lot of the people that you hold dear. So I realize I'm very lucky and very privileged to be able to make the decision that I did last week to come home.
Home. It's
Yeah.
I was talking to an activist yesterday who is from Russia, but he lives in Georgia, in Tbilisi. He was traveling last week when Georgia closed its borders, and because he's not a citizen of Georgia, he can't get back there, even though it's his home. So when you were telling me that you've gone home, parents' home to Donegal, and now, of course, in the meantime, while you've been there, Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, has in the meantime implemented more stringent measures about social distancing, or actually even I would even call it isolation, more so than distancing. So I actually did wonder, how can you navigate that? So you're living in a country that, as you say, it's not very far from where you are.
No.
But it is even if it's not a physical border, there is a border, and you're not a citizen of the country that you live in, that you're a resident of, and currently you're in a different place. I think you're right. I think this is something that a lot of people are experiencing. Should probably not mumble when I'm being recorded, right? It's probably not wise.
I didn't even think that was mumbling. That was lovely. I enjoyed that. Keep doing it.
Well, to anyone who's listening or watching us, we are not editing these interviews. So any of these blunders, they're real. They're real. This is an actual genuine conversation. Sorry, Emma, no pressure.
How we sound. This is how we sound all the time to each other. So it's fine. They're getting an insight into our friendship.
So tell me a little bit about, well, you can pick which one you want to tell me about, whether you want to tell me about the measures that have been implemented in Belfast or the measures that have been implemented in Donegal to prevent the spread of the pandemic.
To prevent the spread, I suppose it was interesting being in Northern Ireland for a while, because without getting too much into the political situation of Northern Ireland and all the history that goes with that, it really did feel for a while that it was, you know, in a bit of limbo, because the United Kingdom, in all the discussions of different measures that certain governments were taking, there was a lot of criticism in the media and public discourse generally on how they had seemed to be very slow to adopt the life-changing but necessary measures from a public health point of view that an awful lot of the medical professionals had been saying needed to be done. The funny thing was, because Northern Ireland, because of its distinct geography, is linked to is on the island of Ireland, it seemed to, on the one hand, move ahead of what the rest of the UK was being instructed to do. So while the Irish government had said much sooner, we're going to close schools, for example, in order to, you know, lessen the spread, lessen the chance that, you know, children who are being cared for by certain family members would, you know, come and say potentially pass on coronavirus to, say, grandparents or to carers with underlying health conditions. The Irish government had moved much sooner to do that, but on foot of that, there's so much life that goes on this island. We've talked about the nature of this in other conversations, say around Brexit, which feels like another world ago. That doesn't even feel like that's the same now. I'm nearly nostalgic for Brexit conversations, which is ironic and crazy. But because there's so much life that goes on across the border on this really small island, there were lots of stories of families who say were even working in schools, or were, you know, living, say, in Donegal, where I am now, and sending, you know, their children would go to school here, and they would work somewhere else, or their children would go to school in Derry and they would work here. And it seemed that a lot of people in Northern Ireland were just like, well, no, this doesn't make sense for us. If the school down the road is closed and our school is not, then how can that possibly, be coherent in terms of, the changes that we want to make. So a lot of people in Northern Ireland had sort of moved to be ahead of official UK government advice, and were saying to me informally that their children out of school, or that they were already, or my organisation, for example, was working from home for at least a week before the UK government advice was directing people that that was something that they should be doing. So it really was, when you were in Belfast, it did feel for a while that you were in this sort of limbo world, that you were, trying to do the thing that you thought maybe was the most practical and was the best thing for as many people as possible, but it wasn't strictly the instruction that the government was giving you to do. Now I think that has moved a lot in the past few days, and that the UK government's advice now, I think they are using the terminology of lockdown. That's something, it's really interesting, even just me and you probably could have a long conversation about this, from a communications point of view, and the messaging and the languaging and all of the terminology that's being used to discuss this, because lockdown is something that the UK government seem to like. They're talking about shielding and an awful lot of quite warlike terminology,
rhetoric,
whereas the Irish government, yeah, exactly. Whereas the Irish government, or well, our Prime Minister, the Taoiseach, specifically said in one of his most recent press conferences that he didn't want to use the terminology lockdown, because that wasn't what was happening. A lot of people still have to go to work. Life does go on. We're not changing that, but and the term lockdown and terminology like that is a frightening thing for people. And when the UK government was talking about shielding, say people over the age of 70 or people with underlying health conditions, the Irish government was talking about cocooning. So the language was completely different. It was this sort of move away from, I suppose, war and military style discussions. But yeah, sorry, that's a long and rambly thing that I wanted to get
absolutely
onto,
fine.
Communications related.
Speaking of communications related things, I wonder what your opinion is of this. I mean, you mentioned about the rhetoric used in some countries is quite warlike. Another thing that I have spotted is a growth in this sort of us versus them language used on a global scale. So, shutting off borders to other nations, blaming foreigners, and it's very much like us, we, this country, have to protect ourselves from them, our neighbors, people in other countries, people in other continents. How does that make you, as an international human rights, queer, feminist activist, how does that make you feel? How does it worry you in terms of the future of your work and life as an activist?
It's just tiring. Doesn't it just feel like we've been here before, that this is just the constant refrain of anything that we want to try and tackle? There's so many issues that are constantly global, right? But this in particular, we can all understand that, COVID-19, coronavirus, whatever we call it, like this, as with so many issues, it doesn't understand borders. It doesn't care about that. It is moving around the world with the frequency that it has done. And at the same time, there are so many groups that just want to retreat, as you say, to that place where they feel safe, in that, well, I can blame somebody else and this is someone else's fault, and I will use the language that we have heard employed against many communities before, this idea, as you say, of us versus them, as if there's some country in the world that is cleaner than something else, or is purer, or is untouched or unblemished by this. It does feel very tiresome and very familiar. I mean, there's so many communities that you can think must just be so tired of hearing this and rolling their eyes and thinking, if only there had been this global outcry and this determination to tackle a particular disease or medical condition. You sort of think of how during I suppose it was the 1980s, more so in Ireland, and other places as well, where there were so many of those terrifying, campaigns around, the so-called, and you sort of think now that we're hearing the same sort of thing again, that we want to shut things down, that certain communities are to blame. But I think, the WHO is doing good work around that, around, giving people advice and trying to, put pressure on media organizations to act responsibly and to think about the language that they're using, and to try and limit that idea that, you, in the current place where you are sitting, there is a particular political leader that likes to refer to it as a virus that may come from a particular geographical area or a particular country or particular
You're being
city,
very vague, Emma. What you mean is that President Trump of the United States calls this a Chinese disease using very racial
Chinese
terms.
disease all the time, all the time. And you can see when there are medical experts of all different sorts sitting behind him, and you can see the reaction on their faces to this. And it's, that is a bit wearisome, where you think, well, are you not even going to call this out to say that, no, it's actually not the Wuhan virus, Mr. President?
Interestingly, a president of a country which you used to live in, Hungary, is he president? No, sorry, prime minister. Is he the prime minister? Or is he's the prime minister? He
quite likes to act like he's all rolled into one, doesn't he?
All authorities rolled into one. Viktor Orban is who I'm talking about. He has blamed this on Iran and on Iranian migrants. But I just wanted to pivot a little bit from very heavy and unpleasant talk of international leaders who are using this as a way to spur racial and ethnic hatred, to you as an individual. So last time we spoke, you joked about having to move into your garden shed. Yes. How are you feeling now? How are you? So you said your job is in Belfast. You're now in Donegal. Are you able to keep working? How are you coping? Does it still look like you're going to have to move into your garden shed, or are you all right?
I am the most all right of anybody, that I can imagine. I am so lucky. First of all, I've been able to make the choice to say I didn't feel particularly comfortable in Belfast where I was at the time with the measures that were going on. Took the chance to come home to Donegal. So I'm very lucky in that I'm able to do that. I'm in a lovely, comfy, warm house that is full of carbohydrates and cheese and wine and all the good things in life. So I'm very lucky in that. I'm very lucky that me and my family get on very well. They're always very supportive. So this house physically is a safe and happy place for me to be. In terms of work, as I say, they moved before even the official UK government advice, and we had been working from home. Tomorrow it'll be 2 weeks. So we've been working from home for quite a while. I'm very lucky. The organisation I work for, it's a very small human rights NGO that supports public interest litigation and encourages the legal community and the human rights activist community to work together to create social change in Northern Ireland. And we're a very small team. There's only me and 2 colleagues, but it's all very desk-based anyway. So we've been able to make that transition quite easily. Everybody that we want to meet with is going through the same sort of getting used to Zoom. We're doing lots of online webinars and tutorials to get everybody happy and comfortable with that. So I'm very, very lucky. I'm incredibly lucky that I've been able to do that. I'm also very lucky in that I am, touch wood, relatively healthy and feeling very well. I don't have any underlying health conditions that would make me nervous. I know there's many friends of mine who are immunocompromised. There's particular friends of mine who are pregnant at the moment. So I have so little to worry about and so much to be thankful for. I am able to continue working. I am feeling healthy. I am in a house full of wine and cheese. What is not like about that?
I'm very happy to hear your very positive outlook and that you are safe and warm and not living in a garden shed.
Well, the garden shed, since we last talked, it has arrived. It is in Belfast. I'm no longer there.
So really, it's not even an option at the moment. You can't move into your garden shed.
No. I can't. I have all these lovely plans of different things, colors that I may slogans that I may paint on the outside of my shed, things that I might grow, different herbs and things that I might want,
So
in
you
the
get to
shed,
think
outside the shed.
creatively.
Yeah, I get to plan for this shed that I may or may not ever see again. So who knows? Let's see. I will keep you all updated. I know you'll all be very
Wonderful.
excited. Hashtag Emma's Shed.
Emma's Shed. Oh, good hashtag. Yes, indeed. Let's follow.
Yeah.
Let's follow hashtag Emma's Shed. Emma,
So I'll follow that.
Yes, we will. I have two more questions for you. One is, because you're Irish, St. Patrick's Day is something that is a big thing for people in Ireland and people of Irish descent, and actually, just I think it's been adopted more globally. So, and that happens to fall
at that.
That happened to fall at sort of the start of the lockdown period, of the social distancing period. I know that in New York, where I am, the big St. Patrick's Day parade was cancelled. How was that for you, having this very, this social celebratory day that is marked every day in a very big way, having that from presumably the isolation of your home?
Surreal. I think it sounds stereotypical, but anybody who knows people who identify as Irish, I think we all are quite sociable creatures. We like the nature of St. Patrick's Day in that it involves a lot of socializing, a lot of music, a lot of dance, just generally people being together. I suppose it's like lots of social occasions that have happened during this period, whether it's birthdays or other celebrations where family and friends would be joining together. It was just very, very surreal. It's a very colorful day. I know that in America they love things like dyeing the rivers green or green beer. It's visually a very colorful day. We love that. It's usually something that involves a lot of parades. We would have that in small towns all the way up to Dublin and lots of other cities around the world. So to not have that physical coming together was very, very surreal. But that's where I think social media really came into its own, because there was loads of people families doing lots of little mini parades and things in their garden. So they'd have dogs and cats and kids, and everybody was just all dressed up and was still going around in their garden and doing virtual parades. And there was friends of mine who did impromptu music sessions where if they had a musical instrument in the house, they'd do a Facebook Live video and people would join and you could request songs. And so I think that's the thing that really, it's you still have to have hope. I mean, I'm sort of consistently positive, or at least I've been trying to be, because I mean, we have to come out of this. We will come out of this. We will come out of this in some shape or form, and the world will be a different place. And I think that is naturally something that people will grieve, because this is a big moment of change. We know that whatever world we come out into after this is going to look very different. I'm just hopeful that maybe it could be a world that is different in terms of the things that we value. That completely moved from St. Patrick's Day and virtual parades into what this world would be like afterwards. But there's been lots of moments all the way along that have sort of prompted me to feel that things can be better after this, because we're very good at keeping in touch now. I just hope that those bonds of solidarity and those connections that we're making with now virtually with lots of people last when we can come back into the world together, and that we continue to support each other.
I think that's the activist in you, and I love that. You're already looking to the future and how it's going to look afterwards, and how can we maintain the connections that the way that we've been connecting, sort of being alone but together, maintaining that momentum afterwards. And to end on a fun note, you mentioned social media. Social media has been a lifeline for, I think, a lot of people in this period. For me as well. Cooped up in my apartment. I mean, I do have my dog Byron, so I'm not completely alone, which is wonderful. one of my favorite things has been doing kind of these online exercise classes, because I'm a little bit, I know that you
I
can still
saw that this morning. I saw your Insta post.
And Byron, my dog, usually joins me. So I know that you're still, and technically you're allowed to go and exercise outside, but somehow that worries me a little bit. So I don't really do it. I mean, I go and walk Byron, but I don't want to go running. So I do it inside. Yeah. And the funny thing is that he usually joins in. Or he distracts me. Like at one point, I was doing a plank, and then Byron started licking my back, and then I was laughing and I was trying to keep the plank. And anyway, so it was hilarious. What has been your favorite sort of COVID lockdown activity that you've joined in or really liked watching or participating in some way?
Well, I haven't been doing the sort of exercise things you've been doing. I have been sticking with my yoga that I always did anyway, but I didn't do any of those live things, and I don't Kieran or anybody else to lick my back, so I don't have the same experience that you have. However, as you probably already guessed, earlier on in the interview, I did mention that I do like wine and cheese. So those online happy hours with some of my friends that we've been doing have been very, very helpful in terms of making us feel like we're all in the same room together. I think moments like that, whether it's wine and cheese or whether you do it in the morning with tea and toast with people, I have felt, I've almost forgotten that we're on Zoom or Jitsi or whatever platform we're using. That has made me feel very, very good. Also knowing that there are times where it is okay not to be online and not to feel like I've had the most productive day in the world, because I love baking, and now everybody's baking, but there are days that I'm like, I'm not even organized to bake, and it's okay that I don't have 17 cinnamon rolls and 2 loaves of bread and all the things made, that it's okay that we're all allowed to be like, you know what, today was just a bit of a weird day.
It is a weird time.
Yeah.
It is a very weird time.
It's a very, very weird time. So sometimes I'm like, it's great to have those social things, but also I feel like I need to set myself certain set scrolling times because there's just too much to read. And again, back to my overthinking, the more I read, the more I will think. So maybe sometimes it's good to step back from that. I am very hopeful that we will keep the certain element of social media on as well, because there's a lot of organizations in Northern Ireland that would be our members that are going to be very reliant on that now in terms of fundraising and different things, because there was several organizations that, including one in particular called Here NI. I don't know if OutRight have ever come across them, but they're the sort of the focused organization who work for and with women who identify as lesbian and bisexual in Northern Ireland. They're the only organization of its kind, and they were very stuck for funding even before the current coronavirus situation hit. So I'm really, really hoping that because they can't do any of their fundraising activities that they plan to do in person, to stay functional, to stay afloat, really hoping that the great things that they're doing online now are going to bring more people into touch with them and make them aware of their work. So yeah, me and you were quite big fans of social media anyway before this, but I'm hoping it can, come into its own now and help more and more of us.
I think you're giving me an undeserved compliment, because I feel like I'm a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to social media, but
you're not.
I've definitely been enjoying the content that I see on it.
Yes, I will watch everything on TikTok. I will not be joining TikTok. That is not my thing. I will absorb the content.
I only found out what TikTok is last week, much to the amazement of many of my colleagues, considering that I work in communications.
You're not in the digital team. It's fine.
I'm not. No, I can get away with it. Now I'm lost for words, which is also a great thing to be when you're in the comms team. No, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to chat to me and to share what you're experiencing and feeling. And as a fellow overthinker, and as a fellow news junkie, and as a fellow scroller of all of the things on the social media, despite being a dinosaur when it comes to it, I definitely find that my anxiety levels are higher than I would like them to be, because my brain just goes, and I
yeah. For that, plus one to that.
plus one to that. So I appreciate you sharing your experiences and also your coping mechanisms. I think that there's a lot in there that a lot of people can identify with in this time, because as you said, this is a situation that affects absolutely everybody. So that unifies us, right? It doesn't divide us, it unifies us. We experience it in different ways. We face different challenges within that, but there are things that are universal, and it's great to see these things on social media, but also there's connections like we're having right now, which remind us of the joint of the joint humanity and the shared experience of this. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And just think of the pride parties that we're going to have when we can actually all meet up again. Think of that. That is going to be fun.
The celebrations after the fact. Yeah, we'll be making up for lost time.
Exactly. I mean, it's awful on the one hand when you read, you know, we know an awful lot of people say that we're involved in planning Thessaloniki Pride, and the fact that Euro Pride isn't going to happen when people thought it was going to happen this year. But think what we're going to be able.
Baltic Pride has also been cancelled.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. There's so many. It's just it's constant. It's every day. There seems to be teams that have been working for months and years, on a voluntary basis. Let's remember, for most of that. But think of all the time, you know, the desire that we're going to have to go and support all of those things, as you know, Pride's close to home, that we can whenever it actually exists again.
Thank you, Emma, for this dose of positivity. Thank you for taking the time to speak to me on OutRight TV.
You're very welcome.
I hope that you will follow us as we share more stories from LGBTIQ activists and allies from across the world. So I'm Dinah. I'm from OutRight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Signing off now, but we'll be back with more stories.
Woohoo!